I didn't drive that far. Doing a statewide race, I am all over the state, crisscrossing this great state of ours on a regular basis. Every few days, I'm on the east side. This Saturday, I'm going to be up in Marquette. If you didn't know, also on Saturday, there's going to be an event at Frisky's Farmers Market, I believe it is, and they're going to be having Mike Lindell come into town. Patrick Colbeck and I have been talking quite a bit about everything that's going on with the election integrity, what's being found in Antrim County, and interesting things are happening around our state and around our country right now. Many of the people in this room, they've had enough. We've seen in 2020 so much authoritarian rule. We've seen so much disregard of our Constitution. We've seen quickly how things can change from we have freedoms to where did our freedoms go. I'll tell you today that your freedoms didn't go anywhere. It's a perception. Because, sir, when you said a few minutes ago that the Constitution does not give us rights, you are absolutely correct. Our rights come from God. The Constitution, unlike other constitutions around the world, our Constitution limits the authority of the government. Our Constitution lays out limitations so that they cannot infringe upon those rights. What we've seen in 2020 is very much an opposite effect of that, right? And then the media marketing to go along with it. CNN constantly playing some sort of nonsense. And now we see this stuff coming out with Fauci. Have you guys seen everything that's happening with Fauci now? It's coming out now that, oh, well, maybe COVID was in a lab in China. And, yeah, maybe, we kind of, politicize things a little bit. Yeah, it's all nonsense. And many of us knew that in March of last year. As a matter of fact, I got banned from Facebook. Not just like 30 days Facebook jail, like literally I was banned from Facebook. Just bought a brand new iPhone 12. Literally, hadn't even been a week yet. Download the Facebook app. Here we go. My wife made an account for me, right? I go to log in. I'm sorry, you cannot log into this account. Y'all know that's my phone? So I'm still banned off of Facebook for speaking the truth on new phones that I buy. That's like a plaque I'm going to hang on my wall, right? That's like a trophy in my eyes. Many of us knew back then, and as this comes out now that everything that happened in 2020 was politicized heavily, right? And we see still today, we see people walking around with masks on and people scared and the fear and everything that was marketed to them. You know what's coming next? The 2020 election. Just like everything's coming out now with the COVID stuff, the election's going to follow. We're going to start to see states like Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan start to say, we're going to take a closer look, we're going to see this, we're going to see that. One thing's going to lead to another, and we will eventually find that, yes, there was foul play that many of us know, right? We're speaking to the choir here. We don't need to convince the people in this room that there was fraud. We don't need to convince the people in this room that there was enough suspicious activity coming from one of the two political parties on the 2020 election that got many of us more engaged and more motivated to take back this country than ever before. What they saw as get Trump out of office fired up an entire state and an entire nation. And it's got guys like me running for office. Tell you a little bit about myself. I live in Allendale. You guys know where Grand Valley is? Make some noise if you know where Grand Valley's at. All right. Yes. I'm married to an amazing lady. Tabitha is her name. And we got 5 little kids with each other. My oldest is 11. My youngest is about to turn 1. So we got a pretty good little mix there, right? Keeps us busy. Lots of lots of noise, right? Lots and lots of noise. And I don't want the future of this country to be communism when I had an opportunity to stand up and be involved, because that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And when you were talking about the Constitution a minute ago and the amendments to the Constitution, and then you got a guy like Joe Biden saying all of the amendments of the Constitution aren't absolute. Really, Joe Biden? That's the attitude of the Democratic Party right now. They take the oath of office to go and protect the Constitution, and then they get in there and they aim to violate the Constitution as their first acts. Over and over again. You mentioned the 14th Amendment. How huge is the 14th Amendment? The 14th Amendment was very, very powerful. And then locking in all those other amendments, right, really did something special to our country. And as the amendments continued on, right, when we look at some of the other amendments, the 14th Amendment really gave the power to the people locking in all those amendments. But, you know, what about the amendment to collect taxes? Who did that give power to? Yeah, wait a minute, hold on. The amendments are supposed to limit the government, not give the government authority. So we started to see a change in mentality of what that document was doing. So anyways, there's many of us that we've had enough. We've seen so much, and to go back to my kids, so I don't want to leave a future of communism to them, a future of fascism that is coming from all this silencing. Now, the left hates me. I'm going to share a couple of stories with you here real quick. I'll tell you what, they do not like me, and especially on Twitter. And, you know, and bless their little hearts, they are free marketers. They get my message out there. They get my name out there. And I mentioned I was banned on Facebook. Every once in a while, I'll have one of these leftist trolls, right, the woke leftist mob. They'll post like an old Facebook screenshot or something of something I said like way back when. I'm like, you still got those? What else do you got in your gold mine? You're showing people that I knew back then what was going on and I was speaking the truth. Can you post another one of those? Because to your 13 friends where I look like an idiot, there's 1,300 people that love me. So if you could just go ahead and keep posting all of that stuff, right? Every time. And so I posted something the other day about the woke leftist mob, you know, whatever it was, with critical race theory and all that stuff. And they get on there and they start talking, oh, you know, more racist comments and blah, blah, blah. I posted something about, you know, what's that lady's name? Joe Biden's buddy. No, yeah, that's the one, right? Kamala, yeah. So she said, have a nice long weekend or whatever it was, right? And so somebody, this black lady from Florida reposted some stuff about the kind of food she was making and because she's not black. And then I reposted it because there was an article that was, I forget who it was through, but it was a mainstream media, and it said that she was the first Asian American vice president, right? And so I reposted it, and I'm like, oh, Asian American, black American, whatever it is that fits the narrative. And that's literally what it has been for her. But they do not like me on Twitter. And here's a couple of reasons why I'll share with you. In that same town, Allendale, where I live, I'm sure everybody in this room remembers last year when there was riots all over this country and burning of personal property, destroying everything. It happened in Grand Rapids, the town I live by over there. Very sad to see. You remember the statues being ripped down as well? Yep. The woke leftist liberal mob wants to rip down American history. They want to cancel America. They want to cancel the values that we hold so dear and near in our founding for this country. And so there's a statue in Allendale in our little community park, and it's a Civil War statue. And it was right after everything had started around the country, and they put on Facebook, there's this group out there, a little BLM Antifa group, right? And they were going to go to the statue. And so I got a phone call from a friend. I said, hey, look, you know, they're going to, you know, he's like, they're going to go down there and they're going to have a little protest. And I said, well, you know what protest is? Statues mean from the woke and liberal, you know, Antifa BLM groups. I said, let's go down there. Let's protect American history. Let's protect our community. And at that time, I had no intentions of like creating this to be a cool story to like run for governor eventually. Like everything I did last year, like I had no idea I would be here today. And I'll share a little bit about why I am here today as well, doing all of this. So we went there to the statue. A lot of people from the community, and I was open carrying because I'm a huge Second Amendment supporter, so I'm open carrying my 40, and we had like a dozen people show up with AR-15s. Y'all ain't tearing down the statue today. I'm going to let you know that we're here to keep the peace and make sure that everybody goes home and nothing gets burned or torn down. They got mad. They got really, really mad, but to this day, that statue still stands there.
Amen. Boom. Good job.
So in the midst of seeing everything around the country be destroyed, a small group of us said that you're not going to do that on my watch because American history matters. You don't rip down history. You do that in communist countries. If you look at communist revolutions that have happened, what do? They tear down the statues, right? What do we see all over the media last year? Tearing down the statues, and they're spray painting all sorts of stuff all over it, and they're, lassoing it around and pulling them down and busting them all up and everything like that. So we stood and said, you're not going to do that. And so that was really what started this whole leftist mob getting super upset at me and super mad at me. But I didn't care, right? The more that they marketed to me, right? They tried to cancel my business, right? I got phone calls like, fire Ryan Kelley. I'm like, got a news for you. I own my own real estate firm, right? Like you literally cannot cancel me. You literally cannot do it, right? You might scare away a couple of people that want to do business with me, like, oh, I'd never do business with that guy. But then somebody else comes along and they're like, hey, I ain't picking anybody else, right? So you look for your ideal clients anyway. So anyways, it just boosted my business, right? And it was fun as time went on. I'm a planning commissioner out in Allendale, and they wanted to get me canceled off the planning commission because I was a white supremacist and I was a racist and I was all the worst things that they could possibly say about me. I'm just shaking my head and go, yeah, whatever, right? Because that's what they want to do. They want to say the things that will make you say, no, please don't say those things about me. I couldn't have that happen in public. I couldn't publicly have some article written about me saying that I'm a racist or any of these other things, hoping that you will just go away, hoping that you will just crawl under a rock and say, nope, I'm sorry, I'm not going to push back. But I ask you today, stand shoulder to shoulder with me up against the woke leftist mob and say, we will not let you destroy America. We will not allow you to come here, destroy the founding of our country, destroy our Constitution, and take away all of the values that we hold near and dear. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we continue to do that. I've had rallies all around the state last year, right? We did multiple rallies, and we were armed at all of these rallies because I see the Second Amendment as keeping the peace, right? Strength with power, right? You have the peace with power. So you get guys standing around with AR-15s. You get ladies standing around with AR-15s. And, hey, we're not here for anything other than we're going to make sure everybody stays cool. And we've had some rallies where, BLM and INTFA are always there, right? They're always like looming in the background or walking around or doing something like that. And you can always tell they're looking funny and out of place. And, some of them getting loud with bullhorns and everything. They had a protest out in Allendale just against me. Like I literally had a protest against Ryan Kelley. I'm like, I'm a planning commissioner, guys. You're literally out here protesting me. And they had all these signs and they're screaming the F word and all these cuss words. I got my kids and my family with me. And I'm like, yeah, this is Antifa guys right here. Don't grow up and be like those losers, right? But as we continued to go down this path, the election happened in 2020, and I think it caught a lot of us off guard. And I know it caught me off guard because I will admit I stayed home that night. And I had my little popcorn because here comes the red wave, right? Who would elect a guy like babbling, sleepy Joe Biden that sniffs kids? Who in the world would elect this guy, right? So I sat at home and I watched. And Trump had it in the bag, right? But then comes the ballot drop. Then comes the little straight up line. And then comes the Joe Biden lead. And then we're scratching our heads and going, wait, hold on a minute. And then the mainstream media. And I had a friend, we made a show. We had a show called Bamboozled. And we were showing people, because Bamboozled is like completely fooled, right? And so the name of our show was Bamboozled. And we were telling people how the general public has been bamboozled by the mainstream media and by the woke left liberal mob. And we called it on the show. We said, look, if anything's going to happen, what they're going to do is they're going to parade Joe Biden around as the winner on mainstream media. And so then I called him up. I'm like, Jason, they're parading him around as the winner on mainstream media. Remember the show that we did? And so that started to happen. So I was down at the TCF Center. We were down there for like 2 days straight. We had a couple rallies down there trying to push back that way. Antifa was down there again and everything. We had this whole big confrontation with those guys in the streets. Lots of weapons down there too. And so, that's that's where we need to be. You know, we can't be hiding behind keyboards, and we can't be, I mean, we have to be out there. We have to be making a difference. Posting stuff on Facebook only gets you so far. Yes, it's great for information out there, but we cannot be scared about being out there for our country and standing up for the things that we want to do and being at these rallies and motivating people. You talked about mobilizing, getting people out in the streets is where it matters. And so we did some multiple rallies at the Capitol, too. We had some really good turnout for some Stop the Steal rallies. And then January 6th, right? And absolutely I was in Washington, D.C. on January 6th because election integrity matters. Now, the media, on the other hand, they try to make it so that I'm painted in a very, very bad way, right? Regardless of the fact that I personally didn't do anything wrong and 1.5 million other people didn't do anything wrong, they are using that day for their narrative, right? Did you notice that they still to this day have not said anything about that day being a super spreader for COVID-19? Why was that not brought up, right? If they didn't have the other narrative to push, then they never would have brought that up. And they would have brought up something with COVID or whatnot. But they had that narrative, and they can continue to push that narrative. And so I continue to push back. And when they question me about it, I say, look, you know, it was not an insurrection. And I even asked the Associated Press, this lady's interviewing me, I'm like, can you tell me what an insurrection is? And she's like, I said, okay, let me ask you another question. This is an easier one. Who told you to say that? Well, what do you mean? I said, answer the question, Martha. Who told you to say that? Well, you know, our supervisors give us little buzzwords to go off of and things to say. I said, buzzwords. I said, okay, so you don't even know what an insurrection is, and you're asking me about my involvement in an insurrection, and you don't even know what the word means. That's where the media is coming from. They don't even know what they're talking about. It's just a way for them to paint anybody that's conservative, that supports Trump, that supports American values. If you don't support the left, woke, liberal mobs mentality, and if you were there on January 6th, you're classified into whatever they want to paint you bad as. And so I own it because election integrity matters. And I even go so far as saying, you know, I didn't go in the building. I didn't. But I believe people had every right to be inside the people's building. Let me tell you a little something about the people, because you mentioned we the people, right? So Joe Biden, in his State of the Union address that he had just a few weeks ago, he said, the Constitution starts, we the people. You know, that's us, the government. What? What? Whoa! So when they say they came to the people's house that day, what they're telling you is that these random lunatics came to the government's house. That's what they're telling you. Those are the messages that cross over. The people that came to Washington, D.C. that day, we were not there to overthrow the government. We were there to say, we want election integrity. Stop. The people say stop. 1 million of us say stop. Re-look at the election. We want audits. If Joe Biden wins fair and square, hey, didn't see that one coming. But they refused to listen to us. They refused to listen to the will of the people. So what can we do moving forward here in Michigan? Is anybody aware of the affidavit that is currently out there? Raise your hand if you're aware of the affidavit. Okay. Raise your hand if you've signed it and sent it in. Okay. So, and I can share this with everybody too for whoever doesn't have copies. In Arizona, this is the way that they forced the audit to happen down there. The Michigan Constitution, Article 2, Section 4, states that electors in the state, people who are eligible to vote, have certain rights. If you look under subsection H, the electors, they have the right to demand an audit to ensure the accuracy of elections. So the affidavit is stating that, yes, you are an elector in the state of Michigan, and under the Constitution, Section 2, Article 4, 1, subsection H, you are demanding the legislature uphold your right to audit the 2020 election based on, and we have it laid out in the affidavit, serious stuff, legal documents, legally binding. You sign the affidavit. Where's our notaries? Raise your hand again. We need your help. Yep, good. We're going to be doing a rally on this too, yep. So they're going to have lots of those coming up.
Yes. And so what needs to happen? Yeah, go ahead.
Freely notarized. 500 North Pontiac Trail in Walled Lake.
Until 8 p.m. Okay. Sorry, Ron.
No, that's good. We're going to have more of those. We're going to do a rally coming up. Kim Klasiak? You guys know who Kim is? Right? That black lady from Baltimore so I just talked with her on the phone for a while earlier today. And she's very excited about my campaign. And so we're going to start to do some more things with her. And we will probably have a rally coming up here soon, because this affidavit here is telling the legislature that we want you to audit the 2020 election. Prove us wrong. We're still getting people to fill out the affidavits and send them in. So you need to send a copy to Senator Majority Leader Mike Shirkey. And then there's a whole list of other people on the affidavit where you'll make copies and send it to them as well. It needs to be certified mail. You want to get the copies certified mail, send it to Governor, what's her name, Gretchen Whitmer, and Attorney General Dana Nessel, Jocelyn Benson, the Senate Minority Leader, the House Speaker, House Minority Leader, several other people. We have it all laid out in the I didn't do it. I'm not going to take credit for it. It's all laid out in the affidavit what you have to do. I'm going to be putting out an email tomorrow morning with instructions. So if you guys aren't signed up for my email list, I'll show you in a minute how to get signed up for the email list, and then tomorrow morning we'll be sending that out with instructions.
Okay, isn't it tomorrow in Walled Lake that we can leave the affidavits there? Yeah.
So you do one affidavit, leave it with us. We're going to make copies and send it out to every single place. So everybody who signs it will make sure it gets certified and sent to.
Okay. Again, anybody else has a question? We'll probably wait until Ryan gets done speaking, and then we'll open up for questions. Raise your hand, and we'll get over to you.
Just 2 more hours, guys. We'll get to questions real quick. Be real quick. I'll just get through these next couple of points. So election integrity matters, and it is up to the people to make sure that happens. So signing that affidavit saying that you want to exercise that right and we want to force this audit to happen is very, very important, because the affidavit states that, well, if there wasn't anything, you sign an affidavit saying that there wasn't anything on penalty of perjury and send that back. And then let's go ahead and have a look. Right? So what are we doing if we don't have election integrity? What are we doing? Nothing. It's all a waste of time. I could sit here and tell you all about my Michigan First policy agenda, and I'll tell you a few of those things. But no matter how good that is, look at the candidate we had for president, Donald Trump, the rallies that he had, the American energy that he helped create, right? Revitalizing the spirit of this country. And then we see what happens. So if we don't have integrity, it doesn't matter. And so as I go down this path as a candidate for Michigan governor, I'm kind of doing 2 parallel things, right? I have to run the campaign. I have to get in front of groups and speak. I have to do fundraising. I have to come up with additional policy points. But I also have to work on our fundamental election integrity. Because I can tell you all the election integrity policies in the world, and I can tell you, oh, it'll be so amazing. We'll have all these things. It'll be so good. If I never, ever can get elected, none of that matters. None of it matters. Just being real, right? And you guys all know it too. You guys are all here. You're all smart. You understand that. So we need to do something right now. And that is us, the people in this room, forcing an audit to happen at the state level. Affidavit after affidavit after affidavit. This is a right in the Constitution for us to make it be forced to happen in this state. And we can do it. We can do it. So I encourage you to get out there tomorrow, or stay tuned. We're going to have a rally coming up. The more we can get in, I think we've got 100 and some odd so far that have reached it to all of these people. I want to see that have a comma in it. I'd like to see it have 5 digits in it. So they have 10,000 of these things, 15,000 of these things saying that, hey, we the people want an audit. Take a look. We want to look at all of it. So working on that, and that's going to be important here. What else do we want to talk about here? Talk a little bit about some of my policy stuff, right? My Michigan First policy agenda focuses on making Michigan a place that people are going to want to move to. Now, I can share this with you that I do have some very big things that I'm working on that I can't quite talk about tonight because I don't have them finalized. But as far as the education system and as far as the economy and tax structure, I'm working on a few different things here. I want to see things change up in our state, as many of us do. We need to make this a place where people are interested in coming to raise families, have businesses. In the education system, our education system is way out of whack. I'm reading over the budget, right? This is what I do like at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking at the budget online. I'm like, why in the world would we send $400 million to the state of the University of Michigan? Why would we send $325 million to Michigan State University? I'm looking at all these things in the education system, and I'm seeing where all this money goes and where all these funds go, and I'm like, wow, we're literally paying these people to indoctrinate our kids. We're literally paying these people on these college campuses. If you're getting these hundreds of millions of dollars on these college campuses, and then you want to censor free speech. In high schools the other day, I was talking with a friend yesterday morning, a long-term friend, and I said to him, Mike, and I'm chatting about a few of these things. He says, let me tell you a little story about my kid's school. His kid's teacher comes up to him and he says, we're going to have a anti-gun rally. And his senior says, that sucks. And the teacher's like, excuse me? He's like, you need to come down there. He goes, I don't agree with that. I'm going to have an anti-gun rally. I'm not going to that. He said the whole school's coming to it. True story. This is what Mike is telling me. And so Mike's son goes, all right, next week I'm planning a pro-gun rally, and I want you to get the entire school there. He goes, well, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And he says, whoa, hold on a minute here. This is what's happening in our schools. This left woke mentality is taking over our schools. It's time we make some serious changes in our education system. I'm about to make some enemies, you guys. I'm about to say some things that people are going to be mad about. But you know what? There's going to be a lot more of us that support us. It's time that we take a look at really changing some things with the education system, and we say no to the liberal indoctrination. It's that time. Absolutely. It is that time. And so this decade is going to be so interesting. And this has nothing to do with me running for governor, because this is so much bigger than me. But the amount of people, as I travel across this state, the amount of people that I've never been in politics before, I want to get involved now. I'm sick of what's going on. The number is growing and growing and growing. And I'll tell you what, Sergey and I were just talking on the way out here. The left, woke, what you see as the loud, noisy ones in the media, that's a small number of people. I'll tell you what, the majority of the people in this state and in this country do not want transgender men in girls' sports. They do not want transgender men in women's bathrooms. They don't want to say, oh, Tommy, you feel like you're a lady today, so why don't you go ahead and change in there for swim practice with the ladies, right? The general population doesn't want that, okay? That's a small percentage of the population that wants that, but we can't be scared. We can't be scared. And they're going to want you to be. So we got to stand strong, and there's so many people that are wanting to stand strong across this great state. So that's why it's going to be an exciting decade, is because all of this stuff that happened in 2020, all of this stuff that's happening now is getting people wide awake. You talk about precinct delegates, right? How important that is to grow that base of grassroots people, because we can fundamentally change the party. I knock on doors a lot as a candidate for governor, right? And here's the doors I knock on, right? I'm driving down the road, and Sergey, you know this too. We do this all the time here. Sergey and I ride around. When we went up to the UP, we made many, many stops. So we're driving. I see that Trump sign or Trump flag flying or something like that. Hit the brakes, turn around, right? Ryan Kelley, candidate for Michigan governor, saw your Trump flag, figure we probably align on values, got a couple minutes to talk. I have had no one deny me talking to me, and I have signs in every single one of those people's yards. So it's like low-hanging fruit, right? But here's one of the stories that I hear from some of these people. I just want to live my life. I just want to, I just want to go to work. I got a business I run. I live. I just want to be able to live life. And that's what, as conservatives, we have a tendency to want to do, right? We're individualistic. We live our life. We're good at it. I'm great at selling real estate, guys. I can sell real estate super easy, and it can make a great living, and many of us are like that. But what happened when that was going on with us by the millions? The liberals said, well, I'll take over the school. Let me push this agenda over here. The liberals said, let me take over city council over here. I can, push my agendas over here, right? And then all of a sudden we fast forward, and now here we are. And so now we have two words that we can choose from. Well, I'm going to have to make some sacrifices, and I'm going to have to get involved. Or the other word, you have an obligation to get involved. Freedom is not free, right? What did Ronald Reagan say?
I don't know.
Freedom is one generation away being gone. You knew that, Rob. It's all right. I threw you off guard. I didn't give you a heads up of what I was going to ask. Yes. Exactly. So here we are. You know what's fun? What's fun is thinking about history, but living it. So everybody, I want you to take a little trip with me, right? We're going to go in a little time machine 50 years from now. It's 50 years from now. And in school, they're teaching about history. And up comes the decade of 2020. They're going to tell one of two stories. One of those stories is, and this story probably wouldn't even be told if this happens, but this would be one of the stories. 2020 happened, there was this China virus, and there was an authoritarian, tyrannical government that came in, invoked their will on the people, and America fell to communism, and end of story. Right, that's it. Bad news, lots of oppression, bad things, right? Or, let me just make sure it's not my wife blowing me up for, it's not. I don't know who it is. I get numbers from people. Your car warranty is about to expire. I know it is, for sure. You ever mess with those guys too? Like they'll call you up and they'll be like, from the Social Security Administration or something like that. You're like, oh my God, this is terrible news. Oh yeah. Right, okay. All right, okay. So the other part of the story, right? The other part of the story is that 2020 came. There was an authoritarian government. There was a tyrannical government. They tried to do away with the Constitution, and there was a large group of patriots that stood up and said, not on my watch. There was a large group of patriots that said America's worth fighting for. Michigan is worth fighting for. What an amazing state, right? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the state with agriculture in a second, so don't let me forget that. But it's worth fighting for. We don't want to leave communism to our kids. We don't want to let the fascists that like to censor people take over. The First Amendment matters. Why did I get banned off Facebook? First Amendment. Because I called BS, because I said Whitmer deserves to go to prison for all this stuff. They didn't like that. So they banned
By the way, we're going to go off of Facebook in just a little bit now. Yeah.
Hi, Mark. So I ask you to be part of that second story. I ask you that it's an obligation to America, not a sacrifice. As conservatives, we can look at like, oh, I had to sacrifice time with my family, or I had to sacrifice time for that. Like, I'm real with everything that I do, right? I want to see some change, and this is why I'm doing it. I'm probably not going to be the GOP's favorite candidate, honestly, because I'm not going to be the one that's easily controlled. My agenda is America's agenda. It's not Ryan Kelley's agenda. I'm fighting for this country and this Constitution. And if they don't want to be on board with that, that's fine. I'll do it myself. I was asked that question at a Lincoln Day dinner. I said, what are you going to do if the GOP doesn't have your back? I said, raise your hand if you would potentially support me. Everybody in the room raised their hand and says, I got you all. Who do they got? That's a big difference. So the obligation to be involved right now and to stand up for our country and not be scared. I just tweeted some stuff a little bit ago, and they're like, oh, all over how terrible of a person I am. And just they say the meanest things. Find me on Twitter there. You can see the things that they say or whatever. But I ignore it all, right, number one. But number two, it's like, thank you for the free marketing, right? Because you are showing people how hateful that you really are, how hateful the left really is. Talk about agriculture for a second here, about how great this state is. We're number 2 in the nation for agriculture. The only state that beats us out is California. And trust it but verify it, though. I want to look into this, right? I want to look into this a little bit because I say we need to take that number 1 spot because we got the water. Why would we not be number 1? What are we doing that doesn't incentivize us to be maximum here in this state? And I got some really cool policies that I'm going to be rolling out here too that's going to be around agriculture. I'm not trying to be vague, but I'm working on some things. And when I have everything in place, then I'm going to be announcing the actual plans of how we can implement this stuff. Because I think that there is some things that we can do to incentivize more agriculture, food production here. There's so many things that this great state has that we have this amazing resource, and then we're not really doing anything other than playing these ridiculous political games like what we see this current governor doing, right? It needs to get back to the people. But I tell you what, when we talk about the people, right, the people have to be involved if they want the results. And that's being a precinct delegate. That's running for certain offices. It's being involved, right? Not just sitting back and complaining. That gets nothing done. Nothing at all. If I get elected governor of the state of Michigan, which I will, God's got me on this path. Unless he closes the door, I keep walking through all the doors, all the way to the governor's mansion, and then we turn some things around in this state. As an elected representative, when you represent the people, there's 2 ways of looking with this. Follow me on this real quick. You are there not to represent the special interests of everybody. I'm not there to, everybody's got a different opinion, right? So I got to represent that opinion, and I got to represent that opinion, and this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I have my set of principles that I stand for. As an elected representative, representing the people, you are there to make sure their constitutional rights are protected and upheld. That's the main job. Not to take 10 million phone calls a day. What do you want today, Jan? Okay, that sounds good. I'll be right there. All right, Kevin, what do you need, right? No. It's not the way that it works to represent all the special interests. You're there to make sure that the government is out of the way so people can thrive, freedom and prosperity. Why do people move to this country? Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Where do you get that elsewhere in the world? Not many places. They all come here. We need to protect those things. So, yeah, you know the thing. So, we know that we need some changes. So I prayed about this, doing all these rallies and all this stuff. What my wife said to me, she's like, well, what are you going to do? You going to run for office? I'm saying, no, I don't think so. I don't think so, right? We're strong in our faith, right? We're one nation under God, right? The way that our family works is God is the rock of our family, right? And my wife and I's relationship, I love my wife, and the relationship with my wife and I comes next together, and then it's based on God. And then our kids, right? Our relationship with our kids. So we're not saying that we deprive them of any of their needs or ignore them or anything like that, but that's just the way that we set up our marriage and our family, right? God first, and then husband and wife, right? That relationship there, and then the relationship with the kids. That's the family unit, right? Now we see groups like Black Lives Matter that want to eliminate the nuclear family, right? I was asked many things about Black Lives Matter. I'll share something a little bit here about that, and then maybe we do questions. I don't know how long you want me to talk. I talk all night long, guys. I love this kind of stuff. I keep going. America is amazing. With the family, so those things being the important things to us, right? And what I teach my kids, like to be thankful, right? In America, in America, we have running water in every single building, right? I was just talking with a guy that immigrated here legally from another country. He's like, I lived in 4 countries. This is my 4th country I've lived in. He goes, people have no idea how lucky we are. There's running water. Like literally, we flush our toilets with drinking water. Okay, we are so lucky to live in this country. Now, after my wife said that to me about, am I going to run for office? I'm like, well, okay, I'll pray about it, right? I'll pray. And so I prayed. I got down on my knees and I prayed. I'm like, God, if there's a direction you want me to go, like show me that direction. And I'm like, I'm totally cool, like just selling real estate, maybe do a rally or 2 a year or something like that, but just show me where you want me, right? And so time passed, several weeks, and eventually something happened where there might as well have been a sign at the end of the driveway, like, those Las Vegas signs with the flashy lights and stuff like that, run for governor. I'm like, well, who put that sign over there, right? And so I told Tabitha about it. It was actually a text message that I got from somebody just way out of the blue. So I called them like a week later. I'm like, why did you do that? They're like, I was praying the rosary, and I had it put on my heart that I should text message you that you should run for governor. I'm like, well, got any other text messages? Right? Seriously though, got any other text messages? Because I'll take the second one, right? So I prayed more about it, and I talked with Tabitha, and I was like, well, you know what this is going to do to our family, right? And we thought about all this stuff, and we went through all the things, and so then I was like, no. And at the end of the year last year, just after Christmas, I actually called Mike Detmer, right? Him and I had been talking about this, and I said, all right, Mike, I'm going to do it. And that's all I had to say. He's like, yes! Right? He's like, sweet. So from there, I went and I formed a committee, and I started bringing things together. And the day that I announced on February 1st, 2021, this is good. This is really good. Ready for this? The Democratic Governors Association put out a massive hit piece on me. I'm like, wow, 6 hours in, I got y'all's attention? Okay. All right, we have potential. We have potential. Somebody put that on Twitter, right? Let the leftist trolls run with that one really good, right? And so, since then I've been attacked by the media, all sorts of other stuff. They continuously try to discredit me. And they're going to continue to do that, which is good because I know exactly what Whitmer's going to come after me on. I know exactly what she's going to say about me, which is good because what I can do is I can address all that stuff right up front, and I haven't backed down from any of it. They want me to back down from the statue thing. They want me to back down from, you remember the plot to kidnap the governor, right? One of those guys that got arrested happened to be standing in a photo over there of me at one event. And they're like, oh, look, Ryan's in the photo with the guy's got to be something. I'm like, you guys are really stretching here, but you want me to give you something else to talk about, right? And so I just let them keep putting out all of the free media because it makes people think, like, who is this? I was a guy in Wayne County. I got a lot of support over in Wayne County. They created a fake website about me. All this meanest stuff you could think about or whatever, and he came across this, and he texted one of my friends. He's like, this ain't the guy's platform, is it? Come on. You're smarter than that. You're a Republican. Come on. But anyways, he's like, I got to meet this guy. If the left is coming after you that hard, if they're saying those things about you, you got to be our guy. So anyways, I got 2 events booked with them down in Wayne County, so I come down there and talk to a whole bunch of them or whatever, and I say, just go ahead and keep bringing it on. Because we can't back down from it because we stand on the truth of God, right? God's got our back. And so we continue to push the truth. And then what happens? Things like the whole Fauci thing comes out, right? Because we didn't stop. We didn't back down. We didn't say no. You know what comes next? The things with the election. You know what comes next after that? The left liberal mob. They actually do hate America. We actually do need to push back on them. And it starts to be exposed that people like us are the true patriots of this country. Because Black Lives Matter, I told you I'd bring that up here a little bit too. I said some mean things about them last year as the riots were happening. I said some mean things about them last year in May and April, right? And at that time, that was like, oh, no, can't do that because you must hate black people if otherwise, And that's the genius marketing behind that whole thing, right? Black Lives Matter. Somebody thought of that. They're like, oh, I got an idea. Check this out, right? We can have a communist Marxist organization. We'll name it Black Lives Matter and say anybody that doesn't like it is a racist, and we can go burn stuff down in the name of Black Lives Matter. How disrespectful. But many of us saw that right away. And so I was speaking out against them. And so they had me as a candidate for governor on this show with this lady. It was a black lady. And one of the questions that came up was some of the old posts that I had put on Facebook about that. And so I attacked it head on, right? And I totally exposed them for what they are, because we all know, we all have seen it, and we know that they don't care about black people in general, right? They care about their agenda is what they care about. And so the way I started that whole thing off, I said, if you want to talk to me about the lives of black people mattering, right there with you. If you want to talk about Black Lives Matter, Inc., the organization, the communist Marxists that destroyed most of our country last year and that have this ideology of this critical race theory and all this divide in our country, yeah, we can have fun with that conversation. Tell me where all the money they raise goes to white Democratic politicians. How does that work? Right? So anyways, we got to keep pushing back, guys. America is a place worth fighting for, right? America right now, when I talked about those two stories 50 years from now, you and I are literally living that story. How cool, right? How cool. Do you ever think of things like back in history, like the Civil War, the Revolutionary War? You're like, how cool would it have been to been there? At that time, they were like, I'm cold out here, right? Like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to be here, right? You know, it was tough for them, but they did it anyway. They fought for freedom in the worst of conditions. And we get to sit in rooms like this, have bathrooms on every corner, drinking water everywhere. We're like, well, why fight for it? Because I'm going to watch TikTok now. Bread and circus, right? So we fight for freedom under different circumstances. But now it's happening. You don't get to take it back. You don't get to put it on pause. You don't get to do it 2 months from now. You don't get to do it 2 years from now. You can't do it next decade because business is going really, really well. I've been walking away from most of my business. I need more business because I have a family to feed. I'm not a multimillionaire that has all these big backers and everything is good. I'm a regular guy that likes to work hard and loves America. So when you talk about bringing checkbooks out, absolutely. I need help. I put all the cash into it that I can, but I cannot get to the finish line by myself. And just like Mike said, he doesn't need $3 million. I probably do. 7150's maxed out, right? Tell your friends. And I cannot make it across the finish line myself. But I know that the Democrats will get behind Whitmer big time. They'll get it behind her big time. And they're going to have all sorts of stuff, all the different flyers they put out. You know, where's the money go for political candidates? Yeah, we have a little bit of staff, but we need to get our message out. The message needs to be heard. What you hear tonight from me needs to go out to everybody in the state. I can't get that message out on Facebook because Mark doesn't like me, right? They slow people down like us, right? I don't let the conservatives, don't let their voices get out, right? We could get pushed back against big tech on that for sure, right? Every voice should be heard. This First Amendment is so important. But I need help. Can't do it alone, right? I got a great team. I need more volunteers. Sergey and I were just talking on the way here about getting signs out around the state. I have signatures coming up. I need to get 15,000 signatures around the state. Half of the congressional districts all need to have at least 100 signatures from those. So I need volunteers. I need people that are willing to say, I'm willing to fill that obligation. I'm willing to sacrifice some time to help out. But fill the obligation. So we can't look to one person. Even Donald Trump, and I brought that up a long time ago. Like, great guy. He's on our team, obviously. Loves America. But he's not an island. It's us. It's we the people. There is no I in we the people. So that's exciting. But we get to live an amazing time in American history, right? We literally get to write the history of how this whole thing turns out. Now, I know we're here 2A. Wrap it up with 2A, and then we can take a couple of questions. The Second Amendment does protect the rest of the amendments. When we see things like H.R. 127 and we see the other things that the Democrats want to do, Sergey and I were just talking on the way here, isn't it interesting that they want to have all these gun bills and there's mass shootings everywhere? They want to have oil where we limit oil and then all the pipelines are getting hacked. And now they want to limit the amount of beef that you can have and tell you when you're allowed to eat ground beef, and then all of a sudden all the beef factories are getting hacked. Like, how long does it take to catch on to what these people are really doing? So the Second Amendment is so important. because it does hold the rest of it in place. It makes them think a little bit about, well, I don't know. How far do we push it? Because they're all armed. And manufacturers of ammunition, they're constantly out, right? Because they make a bunch and then it's gone. I would like to incentivize. I'd like to see first of all, Michigan be a constitutional carry. You don't need no permit, right? The Constitution is the permit. I made a post the other day, and the left loved this one. Said, AOC, I'm going to start with a story here real quick. Question and answer. I'm sorry. I get into this stuff, and I can just keep going. AOC makes big, bold statements, right? Abolish the police. Abolish ICE. What are we talking about, right? I say let's abolish the ATF. So I posted that on Twitter the other day. Said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, why don't you abolish the ATF? Put a bill out to abolish the ATF because it's unconstitutional. Conservatives need to make big, bold statements. Remember when Jesus flipped over the tables in the market and said, nonsense. It's time for us to flip over the nonsense that's came down on this country. To make big, bold statements. Abolish the ATF, right? Constitutional carry here in the state of Michigan. Make it so that manufacturers of ammunition and other firearms want to come to Michigan because they're going to be protected by a governor like me that's going to say shall not be infringed. Make it in Michigan. Sell it to people in Michigan.
Let's hear it for Ryan. Okay, let's kick off the question and answer time now, okay? Now, I had the privilege to interview you earlier this year.
Yes.
And on the fly, I hit him right away with the ammo shortage that we were having right at the time. Do you remember what you told me?
I don't, but
Well, I guess I'm my time to stump you. But
I'll
what he
check
said
and verify once you're done with
yeah,
this.
yeah.
That's recorded.
Right off the bat, without even blinking an eye. This is how smart this guy is, okay? Without blinking an eye, he goes, you know what? We could revitalize Detroit. We could bring production into downtown Detroit to revitalize our ammunition and bring ammunition manufacturing back into Michigan. That was off the cuff. That's the kind of stuff that comes out of this guy's head. So yeah, it is verifiable because I got it on a video.
I remember it now. You're right. Yeah, the video is
yeah.
coming back to me. True statement. Verified.
So we need an idea capture bubble for him. Okay, so that we can capture all these great ideas. So building off of everything that Ryan has said, does anybody got any questions for him? All right.
Yeah, Ryan, my question is, obviously you're going to have a lot of pushback from Whitmer and all of her donators, and the media is going to be against you. But what about the Michigan Republican Party? And how supportive are they of you and your campaign, and what kind of roadblocks could be in the way with them?
Great question. And as you probably know, they don't come out and support any candidate until after the primaries, right? That doesn't mean that they're not supporting somebody in the background, right? At this point, there's not a lot of communication there. So I don't know where that support's going to come from. And I think moving through this primary is going to be very interesting. I don't know if there's going to be other candidates because Chief Craig has, there's articles out there. Well, Chief Craig, he might announce at some point. How's that going to work, right? Here's their thing. He's black, Detroit. He was the police chief and stopped the riots over there. He's got it in the bag. Okay. I'm going to continue with my story. Thanks. Ground game. I'm going to get out there. I'm a fighter for America, right? And like I said, if God keeps opening the doors, I keep walking through those doors. My message is going to stay my message. And, I'll see what happens. We will all see as time goes on what that communication looks like, how supportive the Michigan GOP is, and what, as the path unfolds of which candidate is going to be the candidate that gets ultimately through the primaries is the one that's supported. So right now it kind of goes back to the question too, I got people, right, that want to see the change. And a lot of people right now are upset with the Republican Party. There's a lot of people that are like, well, where were the legislators last year? Where was all this stuff that was happening? So right now there's almost a little bit of a disconnect. And I'm a little bit of a, we'll just say, enthusiastic candidate. You can't really put me in a box. And I have a history, and it's all captured in the mainstream media of literally standing up and fighting for America armed. I have multiple times where I've spoke on the steps of the Capitol, open carrying. And that's a little different, right? So I don't know what that's going to look like just now, and I'm open to whatever conversation, but my message stays my message. And I've told people too before, some larger donors said, my message is the American message. Here's what I stand for. If you don't like it, don't donate. I'm not going to get elected because I'm not looking to get into the governor's mansion just to kind of, go along to get along, and I get there and we do our thing and it's fun and da-da-da-da-da. Look, I got a great house, I got a great life, I got a great family, I got a great business, right? I can do that stuff there. We need some change, right? If I get elected, it's because of what I stand for and where I'm going. If not, that means the door's closing and I walk away. Somebody else can do it, right? But we, the people, need to stand up.
Okay, Ryan, my question is, you talked about how we got surprised with the election. The machines that did all this, adding up and flipped everything around. What are we going to do about those?
Very, very good question, and a very difficult question as well. Now, a couple of things could possibly come out of that, and disclaimer, I don't have, we'll call it maybe the right answer or whatever, and I'm not going to just say something to make everybody feel good type thing or whatever, so we're just kind of talking about this. I go back to the audit. That's going to be extremely important, because if we can prove through the audit, if we can prove through what Matt DePerno is going to do with Patrick Colbeck and Mike Lindell Saturday up in the Traverse area, that we expose, exactly the fraud that was there. Through an audit, we can expose some of that stuff. Maybe then at that point, we can get some sort of movement to have a hand count. Maybe something can come through the legislature where if there's enough social proof that, look, guys, those machines are no good, right? We get people riled up. I love putting on rallies. What would it look like if we had 25,000 people all, at the Capitol building or wherever and saying, we want the Dominion voting machines gone? What would it look like if we could have a citizens petition in order to get rid of Dominion voting machines? What if we had a citizen petition that said, we want a hand count? There's something maybe that could happen there. So you get the 300 some odd thousand signatures or whatever it is, right? I've asked myself that question before. Would people from all over the state come to a central location to sign that petition? Or do people not really care? People, they're mad about it, but it's my show's on tonight. How mad are people really about that? Because we could do something like that with a petition drive, right? And ban the Dominion voting machines. So we don't have a lot of time between now and then. We really don't. And things need to happen, and that's why we need to move on this audit very quickly. And I can't take on something like that. With everything I'm doing as a candidate, somebody else would have to head that up. I would be more than happy to be part of it, but I can't, and me and my team can't head something like that up. So if anybody's interested in that, I can have the conversation and point in the right direction.
Okay. Well, you heard me earlier. I'm a little passionate. I stood for that 37 years ago. I signed a letter, and 20 years after that, I put myself 18 times overseas. We had the drinking water. He said, oh, that's great. July 1, assault starts on the good people of Michigan who are injured. I'm one of them. And I have a passion to get that one out. Do you have? I'm not going to ask you to give me your stance on that, but are you willing to stand at least to try to fix? Because we're not only going to lose lives, livelihoods are going to shut down. July 2nd, right across the board, you're going to see an exodus of healthcare systems. We can talk later, because if you drive down my street, you'll pull in, because there's so many damn signs in my yard. You'd pull in to talk to me. I didn't know much about you. I read about you because two good friends of mine interviewed you a while back on Downriver Girls. You were on just after I was on, 2 weeks later. And I said, I can get behind you. And I can tell you right now, I know the guy in Detroit, and I know he has a stand and he can do it, but he hasn't got out there and said anything yet. You did. So you got me right behind you right now. And if you do at any time need, because you're going to get, you said you're going to be assaulted. I can go back in my history, 18 years, over 22 years actually working, protecting people I didn't give two bits about. I'd stand next to you and protect you. You just got to give me the call.
You were talking about the agricultural thing that Michigan could really have. It's to my understanding that Bill Gates bought 200,000 acres in Michigan, and he's into GMO. So how are we going to deal with that?
Great question. Start with a story here real quick, and then I can go ahead and answer that to the capacity I can answer that in, because that's a very difficult one. Many years ago, there was a group, No GMO for Michigan. Some people may have heard of that, and that was something that I got involved in, because when I learned about what GMOs were, I was like, oh wow, that doesn't necessarily sound like a good thing necessarily, right? And so I was involved a little bit about that. So I am educated on what those are and what the use of Roundup is, and the glyphosate inhibitors and stuff like that they have infused and all of that stuff, as well as like the BT, the stuff that the internal pesticides that they have and stuff like that. And so, it's interesting that. So with Bill Gates, with Bill Gates, so he's bought a lot of farmland, right? In Michigan and all over the place. And I don't know what his intention is exactly with all of that stuff. How to address that, it's somewhat challenging because it is private land, right? We're getting low battery on that one?
Must be.
All right. And so with private land, him growing what he wants to grow on there, I don't know what difference the government can come in and tell him he couldn't grow what he wanted to grow on there, number one. Although there may be things that could be done to limit the amount of exposure of that. And again, I'm not here to like pander for votes or say, I'm going to do this or do that or something like that, because I don't really have a good answer of how that could be addressed. And so looking at the other available farmland that we do have, like I don't know how much of that is GMO. I know there's a lot of GMO out there. There really is. There's a ton of it. And so I think combating that as in pushing for more organic, pushing for more non-use of GMO would be important, and kind of promote that and maybe even incentivize that to a certain capacity, I think would be a good direction to go. But again, just being honest, I don't really have a policy wrapped around that at this point, and I'm not just going to say something that's going to make you feel good that's a lie. We can talk more about it later if you want to, if you have ideas and stuff.
Question about Michigan part-time legislation. Are you for or against, and why?
Great question. For it is the short answer. And the little bit longer answer is part of my Michigan First policy agenda that I've got laid out on my website is that I believe that we need to respect our Constitution, the federal Constitution and our state Constitution. And also I have on there that we should be identifying laws that violate the Constitution that are currently on the books and have those removed. And so if we stick with full-time a little longer with the intention of removing some of those, like the Senate Bill 250 that just came out that was going to replace the Public Health Act of, I forget what year, but the 2253, right? I couldn't believe that the Republicans got behind that. I called up I won't drop names and stuff, but I called up some of the senators. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now with this? Well, the Restaurant Association, blah, 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 blah. I said, you guys are taking unconstitutional orders from the Restaurant Association now? Well, how do you mean? You're literally signing a bill limiting assembly. Well, Whitmer's not going to sign it anyway. I said, well, number one, what if she does? And number two, if she's going to veto it anyway, why don't you stand up for what's right and just get rid of it altogether? Why don't you put a bill out? Why doesn't Senate Bill 253 why doesn't Senate Bill 250 eliminate Section 2253? There you go. Get rid of it. It's gone. Why? Because that's constitutional. Because an unelected bureaucrat should not be the one making unconstitutional decisions for the entire state. Ever. So I called up some of my House friends after that, and I said, "You're not going to vote for this garbage, are you?" "Well, it's Republican sponsored." And I said, "Did you pay attention to it at all?" So anyways, it ended up dying in the House. I'm not saying that was because of me. There was multiple people that called them and spoke up. But anyways, it ended up dying in the House, and it didn't go anywhere. So I say things like that. Continue the legislature where it's at, with the understanding that instead of just passing new legislation all the time, find ones that are unconstitutional and let's get those removed so that we can get to a place where we're like, hey, government's out of the way mostly. We don't need to be here doing a whole bunch of all of this nonsense, so we can make a part-time legislature. So I would be for that because I'm for limited government. To go back to the GOP candidate, or the GOP getting behind me, like literally I want to limit the power of the governor. Literally, I want to limit the power of our government and bring it back to what this country is supposed to be. And so, I might not be the favorite because of those things, right? Because I think that the power belongs in the hands of the people, and that we need to protect their rights so that they can have the best opportunity to thrive in a part-time legislature. If it's just ran the way that it's supposed to, so that we have limited government, is a very good thing. Absolutely.
I may have missed this, but have you given everyone here your contact information, how to contribute, your website? Do you have cards, all that good stuff?
I do. I have some stuff in the car. Everybody has one of these, right? You guys got all phones? Everybody grab their phones real quick. Open up a browser. Uh-oh, better do this quick. So if you got your browser open, type in Ryan, R-Y-A-N, D, Kelley, Kelley.com, RyanDKelley.com. And you should see a picture of my family and I pop up there. That's my website. You can sign up for my email list. I encourage everybody in the room, if you will, to enter in your information. Sign up for my email list if you're not already on there. The way you can stay up to date as far as everything we got going on for the campaign. On there, you can learn about my Michigan First policies. I have everything laid out there, the things that we'll be focusing on. More is coming. I'm going to have some really bold statements because I believe, going back to talking about the GOP and the different candidates, and if, for example, Craig announces, if he ever does, and people see as like, oh, he has an opportunity because he's a black guy, he's Detroit and everything like that. We need some really bold things that we can do in this state. And I don't know if he's going to be doing those things. I don't think that he will. I'm not looking to just win a race. I'm looking to win for Michigan. I'm looking to make some changes in Michigan that will realign our state with American values so people are like, I want to move to Michigan. So on the website there, I mentioned signing up for the email list. And then also you can find the donate button on there. You can donate. It goes right through the Antidote program and comes to me. I encourage everybody to consider any contribution that you can give. $71.50 is max. $10 helps. Anywhere in between, right? And if you would prefer to send a check, at the bottom of, when you click the donate button, if you go to the very bottom, it'll show our address on there. You can send a check in the mail to that address as well. Yeah, the .org one is the one that they made, and people ask me like, oh, why don't you go after them to take them down? And I'm like, I don't know. I look at it as free marketing. I look at it as if somebody's, dumb enough to believe that all of that's true, that they're probably not going to vote for me in the first place. There's nothing I can do. I can be like, everybody gets gold bars today. They'd be like, screw you. Yeah, okay. I know. So there's nothing you can do to please those people, right? But RyanDKelley.com is the right one. And then you can have fun searching my name around the internet with all the lovely things that the woke mob says. Check my Twitter account, and you will have a great laughter-filled evening. Any other questions?
Hi, Ryan. I met you last May at the Capitol at one of your rallies, and just thought you had just tremendous energy. But I don't really have a question per se, but what you said earlier is like I thought the same thing, and it's like I mustn't be crazy after all about the all the left's agenda with oil and now the hack of the meat, and it's like I tell people, and it's like they call me crazy. I go, oh, for the life of me, I don't get what they don't see.
I'm at a loss of words too. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what they're looking at. I don't know how it's processing in their brain that they're not connecting a couple of dots on those things. I really, it's a difficult situation, and that goes back to the education system, that we really need to fundamentally change ways that the education system works, because of the very fact that these people they've been marketed to in a lot of ways, this leftist agenda, and so they've literally grown up, right? And things like critical race theory, it literally is teaching racism. Things like the 1619 Project is literally teaching people that America is a terrible, horrible place and that they should hate this country. Critical race theory is literally programming people's minds that, it's telling black people that they're oppressed. And what happens if my little kids, if I tell my little kids every day how crappy of people they are and that they have no chance of success in life? They will literally grow up thinking, oh, I'm a crappy person, I have no chance of success in life. If I inspire my kids every day, if I tell them that, what's the most important relationship you have? The one with God. Absolutely it is. If I tell my kids every day that you have the opportunity to live the American dream, I ask my kids every day, what is Gretchen Whitmer? And they say a tyrant. I said, yes, that's right. Because what happens in America? They're like, we have freedom. Yes! That's what they grow up thinking. And so with the critical race theory, if these kids grow up thinking that they're oppressed because of their skin color, the country that they live in, white people oppress everybody else, or oppressors, everybody else is oppressed. They're literally going to grow up thinking that. They're literally going to grow up thinking things like Joe Biden said today. I don't know if you caught what he said today, but, black entrepreneurs have, just the same opportunity of white entrepreneurs, except they don't have attorneys and accountants. What are you even talking about, Joe? What are you even talking about? Why would you even say something? They turned the teleprompter off too soon, right? Flash off, and then black entrepreneur, somebody just can you resign, Joe? Right? So things like that are going to continue to divide our country. Things like that are literally teaching racism, and it's literally teaching people that they're not going to be successful based on uncontrollable circumstances, right? America and the American dream is under attack. The American dream, and I was asked this question the other day too, well, what do you think about systemic racism? On a live stream, I got all these trolls on there and everything like that, and they're like, well, does systemic racism exist in America? I'm like, no. Here come all the mean comments or whatever. Oh, this is going to be fun. Gear up, guys, right? The system in America doesn't look at your skin color. It doesn't look what language you speak, right? I've helped many legal immigrants buy houses, real thick accents, still learning English, right? They love America. They love what it stands for. They're so excited and thankful to be here, right? I've helped many people that come here and they want to, buy hotels, for example, right? I can't do this in my country. I can come here and buy hotels. Yeah, absolutely you can, because the system in America doesn't look at where you're from. The system in America says, how hard do you want to work? The system in America says, you put in the work, you get the reward. That's what the system says. Now, there are people that dislike other people for certain things or whatever, and you're always going to come across that, and that comes in packages of all different skin colors, all different backgrounds. None of that matters, right? Racism can come from any person. But America, the American dream, doesn't care. The American dream doesn't say, you're from here, you can't be successful in this country. The American dream says, welcome. How hard do you want to work? You can climb all the way to the top. You can go halfway up. You can stay at the bottom if you want to. I don't care. American dream doesn't care. The American dream is worth fighting for, because right now the American dream's under attack. Right now we have a system that is encouraging people to sit at home. People say the economy's bad. Oh, man, things are bad. We need to open up the state. The state's open, okay? The trouble is that we are incentivizing people to sit at home and not come to work. I met with a liberal business owner the other day, right? And we're talking a little bit, and I have a picture of me and Donald Trump in my brochure, and he's like, oh, I don't like Trump. I said, yeah, you and a few other people. I do, though, right? You know, your opinion's your opinion, my opinion's my opinion. Tell me about your business. And so he's like, a year ago, I had 140 employees. I said, wow, pretty good. Small, medium-sized business, that's good, right? Because I got 38 right now. I can't get anybody to come back to work for me. It's like they're all staying home. I can't even get my products out. I'm lowering the amount of production that I do. Everybody's just sitting at home. That's the problem with our economy. We're not teaching the American dream. We're teaching the opposite. We're teaching live off the government. We're teaching let the communist government go ahead and continue to just put money into your pocket. What happens when they shut that water off, when the merry-go-round does not continue to go around anymore? Now you end up like communist China. No, thank you. I don't want that. So the American dream is under attack for those very reasons, and we're seeing the exact result from that right now because these people are sitting at home, these people are doing nothing, and they're collecting a check. Now they want to start giving you checks every month because of COVID relief, starting in July as well for that, you know? Like, what do you, it's a job, right? You know? It's a great stimulus, right? You can get up out of bed, you can walk around, crack your back a little bit, things are feeling good. You get a paycheck, they give you a paycheck, right? So we need to protect the American dream through our school system. We need to be teaching kids that the American dream is still the greatest thing that you can aim and achieve for. And it's for everybody. For everybody.
That's all the time that we have, folks. Let's hear it for Ryan Kelley. Now you'll see Ryan again on August 10th. August 10th, yeah. Okay, why don't you remind them every Friday?
Yep. So Friday evenings at 8:30 p.m. I go live and I take question and answers. That may evolve depending on how many people are engaged in the questions that we ask. You know, I'll continue to talk about whatever somebody wants to talk about, but I want to see questions continue to come in. I love the Q&A portion. I'm looking forward to debates in the future. No matter who enters the race, I say let's turn on the TV cameras live on TV. Nobody gets any of the answers or any of the questions. Nobody knows the topics. Everything is right off the top of the head. Everything. Freestyle, the whole thing, right? So I'll look forward to all that, but thank you for bringing that up. Fridays at 8:30, we do live on Facebooks. We're very engaged on Facebook. You can find me on there. I have a great team. I need the team to grow. Again, obligation, guys. It's an obligation for our country. And for a guy like me to win, it's going to take a lot of ground game. And it's going to take a lot of engagement from people that want to help me get up there so that we can take the state back.
So RyanDKelley.com is the website. And you can see him every Friday. And, of course, Ryan is going to be one of our guests for the August 10th Governor's Forum in Macomb County. Actually, every candidate that is for the people will be at that governor's forum. If you do not see a candidate at that forum, that should tell you at least who you need to scratch off, if not anything else. But my hope is you find your candidate there and we support them, okay? All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.